to Self-Care. What's paranormal got to do with it? Although holistic and alternative healing methods are becoming more and more mainstream, what method is right for you? How do you find a practitioner once you've chosen to explore an alternative therapy? Each week, host Deidre Sanford will explore a different modality with practitioners who will explain their modality and the benefits they and their clients have received through their sessions. Deidre and her guests may also offer live readings during the show and answer any questions you may have. Now, your host of Self-Care, What's Paranormal Got to Do with It? Deidre Sanford.
And we're back. Good morning, Parafam. Today's Wednesday, October the 12th, and here we are once again. Thanks so much for popping over and working with us once again today. It is a perfectly gloomy, rainy fall day. I'm looking out my window and I'm seeing these amazing red and green colors, and it's chilly. It's downright cold. Kind of. It's in the 50s. So it is comfy, cozy, casual day at my house. I've got my hoodie. I've got my tea. I've got my WLTK-DB swag. I'm good to go. How about you guys? I am ready to run this morning. In fact, I was so ready to run this morning that for some reason I tried to log into the show an hour early. Cheers. So I'm back and I'm ready to talk with all you guys this morning. How is everyone? Goodness sakes, this full moon was a doozy, wasn't it? I'm telling you. Lots of grounding was needed, and apparently I needed some myself this morning. Give me a shout. Let me know you're in. Get your StreamYard permissions up there so I know who you are, not just for interaction this morning and greeting, but because we got a great show coming up. Candice, our certified emotion code body code practitioner, has graciously joined us this morning, and we're going to be doing some live, or she's going to be doing some live healing demos right here on the show today. You can pop it in the comments. Todd's putting the information in too, so that y'all can even choose to call in and talk directly with Candice as we go through this process. I wanted to thank you guys once again for joining me every week. This is only the 4th show, but you guys have driven this so fast and so hard that we already have over 300 downloads of the show. I am stupefied. It's amazing. And I'm ever so grateful to all of our listeners, or all of my listeners and viewers, and to all of our guests. We had Allison Shahu from Bucks County Pranic Healing on the show. Last week, we had Danielle Strano doing live readings. Boy, she's amazing. And this week, as I mentioned, Candice is here with us today doing emotion code body code work for us. The other two, Allison and Danielle, in case you can't grab the links that Todd had posted for us in the comments when those shows were live, you can also find links to many of the practitioners on the show at my website. Todd's going to pop that link in for us shortly. But my website, which is www.deidresanford.com. On the resources tab of my website, you can find links to the practitioners. And there it is. Thanks, Todd, for popping that in for us. And then we'll be putting in some links, or Todd will be putting in some links for us today for Candice as well. Don't forget to give those StreamYard permissions. Pop your comments in there. We're looking for folks who want to join us today. I love interacting with you guys and knowing that you're out there and chatting with us. Well, we've also got a little story of mine that I want to share just real quickly. I do want to remind everyone of a couple of things. That first thing is, we are not medical practitioners. We're not diagnosing. That's just not what we are able to do. However, I do want to share my own personal experience working with Candice and emotion code body code. So that takes me to the second thing I wanted to bring up. We talked previously about trauma. What is trauma? And for the purposes of the show across the board, we're looking at the newer definitions of trauma. And specifically, the one that I wanted to bring out today is, again, from Gabor Mate or Gabor Mate. And that one is, trauma isn't what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you as a result of what happens to you. So if we go back and think a little bit more about energy, we already know that we are all energy, right? But when we have large physical traumas, like my history of car accidents, or when we have small things that happen to us throughout our lives that somehow set us off pitch emotionally, and we don't take the time to cope with and process those emotions and complete the cycle, that emotion, or emotional trauma, if you will, can just sit in your energy field. And it's, if you think about a stream, a river, an ocean, deltas, how are deltas made? It's that little piece of land, right? Collected silt that stands still, that causes the water to start moving around it. In the energy world, we talk about that as an energy blockage, which can be rooted in an incomplete emotional cycle. And it just kind of hangs out there in your emotional field. It hangs out like in the morphic field, extending further and further away from your body. It prevents the proper flow of energy. And eventually, when left unresolved or untreated, incomplete, they become blockages, which eventually can manifest in a physical dis-ease or discomfort. And I didn't think about that, which is really kind of crazy, because what do I do? Granted, I have had far too many physical trauma in my lifetime, several car accidents that resulted in whiplash, in concussions. I got hit in the face one time, and it just completely whipped my head around, couldn't open my mouth, hurt my neck. So I have had some physical injury to my neck. But what about the physical or the emotional slights or the emotional traumas that we pack up and carry with us and never completely process? Those can happen at any time, from toddlerhood, for those of us who look at things this way, from in the womb, ancestral traumas, emotional issues that get passed down. So when we don't work on those, we end up with neck problems. And I never really thought about the fact that there was, I don't know why, some emotional stuff hanging out that might be contributing to my chronic neck problems. I see a chiropractor every 2 weeks. We have proven in the past with pranic healing that these chronic low back issues for me can also be resolved through energy healing and energy work. And emotion code, body code is absolutely no exception. Candice did some work for me a few weeks ago, and I am absolutely thrilled to report that my chronic neck pain, headaches, difficulties with range of motion, musculature contractions have been 80% improved steadily since the day Candice did some work on me. I will absolutely freely also admit that it took a day or two for the energy work that Candice was able to do with me to settle and to really start producing super noticeable results. But really what I notice more now is the absence of those discomforts rather than the discomfort disrupting my life. Todd, let's bring in Miss Candice Erickson-Perham, our certified emotion code, body code practitioner. Candice, good morning.
Good morning. So happy
How
to see
are
you.
you?
I am doing well. It's also a bit gloomy here on the east coast of Charlotte, North Carolina as well.
Now, how much horrible fallout did you guys get from Ian, or did you?
You know, we didn't get a whole lot. It was we've had worse thunderstorms over the summer than the remnants of Ian that we received. So we were very lucky.
I'm so glad. I feel horrible for all of the devastation and all the folks who were affected by the devastation. But man, I'm glad you escaped up there. And I know, of course, all your region and your people up there as well.
Yes.
Tell us more about who Candice is and how you found Emotion Code Body Code, please.
I will. Thank you. So I live here in Charlotte, North Carolina now. I am originally from the Boston area. My husband and I moved to Charlotte 17 years ago. So we've been here a minute. Probably in 2018, I had, for about a year, had a pain in the bottom of my foot. And it was, contributed to plantar fasciitis. I had gone to the doctors. I did the boot for 6 weeks. I did the whole thing. And nothing touched the pain. I was literally dragging my foot behind me.
Oh, wow.
And I had been working with a naturopathic doctor. And she started learning emotion code. She's like, let's just see what happens. And at that point, I was ready for anything. And within about 3 sessions of her doing emotion code, specifically on the bottom of my foot, the pain was gone and it has never come back. I was hooked from that point on, right? When you take that pain away without having a cortisone injection.
Oh, and those are painful in and of themselves. I never want to have another one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And what I realized is what we were unpacking wasn't mine. It was emotions that I had been storing up my whole life of other people's. And that's the first time I had really heard the word, you're an empath. I had no idea what that meant.
Right.
But clearly I was absorbing, right, everybody else's stuff around me. And so when she unpacked my foot, we really dove in to see what else we could unpack. I have a bulge disc at L5. And so we've worked a lot on that, and that bulge has receded.
Nice.
And then just the emotional, like you talked about, just the emotional stuff. It backs up if we don't clear it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened for me was through the layering or unlayering of all of the junk, I found out who I really was. Because at some point somebody said, Candice, what are you doing for fun? I was like, fun? All I do is work. Who's having fun?
Yeah, right.
And they were like, well, you really need to think about that, right? And so that really put me on a trajectory of trying to figure out what is fun for me, right? I had just buried all of that stuff in life, right? Yeah. Very unconsciously, but I had really buried it. And it's so using all of that just, came to light.
Came to light. And then you've got to stop and cope and look at it and be like, what am I not allowing myself to see in my own life? And it's interesting, something that we don't talk about from this perspective. As you said, what do you do for fun? I don't know. What do I do for fun? The inability to relax is actually in and of itself a trauma response. When we relax, we don't have an opportunity except to look at ourselves and to deal with our stuff. So we keep ourselves in this constant state of perpetual being outside of ourselves, not taking a moment to tend to our own. And then all of a sudden, bam.
Yeah.
Here I am. Who am I? How did I get here? Good morning, Lynn. Oh, yes, I know. Gabor Mate, I've got to get out of that habit, has a new book called The Myth of Normal. And he co-wrote the book with his son, Daniel. And there are some glimpses also into the father-son relationship. I was able to see, and I believe it's still available on Guidely as a replay, the interplay between the two of them. And they're talking about not just the book, but how they were able to work together or butt heads together during the process of writing this book. It was so amazing. Lynn, thank you for reminding us of that and bringing that into our topic today. So Candice, you got to this point where all of a sudden you're peeling back the layers. You're discovering that, wait, I'm not real sure who I am because I've been living my life through everyone else's experiences and emotions that I've taken on. Now what? What happened from there?
So we got into a pandemic and everybody stopped. But I really didn't at the time. The work that I was doing at the time in HR ramped up even more than it had before. But what that did was allowed my husband, who also worked a lot, right, was home because he couldn't go to work.
Right.
And he recognized how much I was working and how little time I had for anything else. So through his eyes, I was able to see myself a little differently. Wow. Because he was home. Yeah. And we've been together forever. And so that really led to, I need a break. I need to do a deep dive into who is Candice. And so I took a sabbatical from work. I took a 2-month sabbatical and really did a deep dive into who is Candice and why all the things.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
lot of work to undertake in a very short window of time. I mean,
yes.
when we think about 2 months
Mm-hmm.
compared to how long we've actually been on this earth and choosing consciously what we're going to do with ourselves, our time, our business time, and our dedication outside of ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
to tap into that is an undertaking. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, and
Hey, is there anybody out listening that wants to pop in with Sorry Candice with a story or two? Just let us know that you're there. Share a couple of words. You don't have to get super personal and vulnerable, but this is absolutely a safe space in which to do that if you choose to do so. I'm sorry, Candice, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I obviously used emotion code and body code during that time, but I also tapped into a lot of other stuff, right? Some astrology, tarot, some regression therapy, lots of different things to just bring in some more information, some Akashic record readings, to really just get a little bit more information and then put the puzzle pieces together myself, do that inside work. And I got some answers that I quite honestly wasn't expecting. But I came to the understanding that I had some massive childhood trauma that I just did not remember. But my body did, like you said. It stores it.
Amazing how our unconscious mind will
Mhm.
bury those traumatic events that our brains on the conscious level aren't quite ready to process and cope with in a productive way. Our unconscious mind really is our gatekeeper and our
Mhm.
protector, and it won't let us see those things, even glimpses of them usually,
Mhm.
until we've reached a point at which we can actually process and work with some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy how that happens.
It is crazy. So that information came forth during that time frame, towards the end of that time frame. And, very typical of myself, I was like, oh, I got this, no problem, right? I can deal with this. And so I went back to work, and then I clearly didn't have this and ended up on about a 6-month medical leave
Oh man.
to deal with it. Yeah. And it
So
was
we weren't done processing yet, in other words.
okay.
It's funny when we come back to or step closer to our true selves, how we find things in the life that we had been living prior to our revelation, if you will, suddenly no longer fits.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't always put a finger on what about that doesn't fit. But we know it's no longer the right place for us, and we need to make different choices to allow the true selves or the parts of ourselves that we've recollected and learned to recognize shine through.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer tolerable to continue doing what we were doing to hide from things because they're there. And so in that respect, it truly is
Mm-hmm.
life-changing work when we take on these journeys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what happened, right? I went back to work in a job that I had had for 16 years, 15 years, and I didn't want to do it anymore.
Right?
I had been very fulfilled by this job previously,
Mhm.
helped a lot of people, worked on a lot of cool things. But yeah, it wasn't my authentic self anymore. And so with some conversations, right, my husband and I decided that we were going to take the leap, and I was going to leave the corporate job that I had had a lot of security in for a long time and start Indiglo Soul and start working, emotion code and body code. And really the point is to help others in the way that I was helped, right? I mean, there was a tribe of people that walked with me through my process and continue to, right? It's an evolution.
Right.
And now I'm able to help others in a myriad of different things, right? Not just trauma.
Yay.
I worked with a woman a couple weeks ago with some morning sickness, right? Newly pregnant. And mom's brain and the baby just weren't connected. So we had to connect them up. And then the morning sickness went away.
Yes. I love that. Morning sickness isn't something that is specific to one person in its definition medically, but it is something that a high percentage of pregnant women cope with.
Yeah.
And have to just muscle their way through. What a blessing it was for this woman to have found a way to work through that with you. And what a privilege, of course, to have done the work with her.
Yes.
Unbelievable. That's fantastic.
Yes.
What else do we need to know about emotion code and body code? Because I know they're kind of two different things, but they're super connected.
Yep.
What else do we need to know about the mechanics of that? How does that work?
Sure. So you did a great job explaining it earlier about the backup and the dis-ease. The mechanics behind emotion code really are those emotional blockages, right? We have emotions that we carry ourselves that we take on. To your point earlier, we do have ancestral emotions that our ancestors just couldn't clear for themselves that get passed down. We have heart wall emotions. So as we go through life, we just kind of pack them away and we build this big wall around us, right? Yeah. So what we do is in this, the process is the same for emotion code and body code. We're connecting into your subconscious. So you talked a lot on your first show about being the facilitator. I'm the facilitator. So going through the subconscious mind, that's your hard drive. It knows everything that's ever happened. And so I'm just asking questions. I use a pendulum. So I use this here.
And once connection. Yay.
Once I connect in with your permission, of course, I just start asking questions. And that's one of the beautiful things about this process too, is that especially for me with the repressed trauma, I don't remember any of it. So I can't tell you what happened when I was 5, but my body knows.
Yeah.
It knows
body keeps the score.
Yeah. So emotion code is really level 1 through the certification process. And that's the baseline, right? It is the trapped emotions within our bodies. Okay. Body code just goes to a whole nother level. It's another certification program, but I have access to an app on my phone that's a mind map. It's interactive. And so I'm asking questions of your higher self around where's the imbalance that we need to work on. And going through the yes or no questions and going through the chart, we're able to pinpoint where it is that your higher self is ready for us to work on, because your subconscious never gives us anything that you're not ready for.
Right. And thank goodness for that, I think.
Yes. Yes.
The app, does that kind of take the place of handwritten notes, like a client file? Does it kind of replace that and keep that information for you so that you have notes, your client has notes to talk through with you?
Yeah. So the app doesn't take any notes, unfortunately.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. I shouldn't have phrased it that way. I mean, it helps keep track of where you are in the process throughout the time with your client, and it frees you to be more attentive to the moment with your client. I'm sorry, I misrepresented what I thought. So yes.
Okay. No worries. But to your point, I do take notes with your permission, because I don't want anybody to try and remember everything that we cleared, because you're never going to, right? It's just,
oh gosh,
we go too quickly and we go too fast through the whole process. So I take notes as we go, and then I'll send an email to the client after. A couple other things that I do through the process is, again, through the muscle testing, things that helped me process my emotions were crystals, essential oils, and flower essences. So I'll do some recommendations for those at the end of the session, just to see what people need to help them kind of clear out the energy. Because to your point, it takes a minute, right? All the energy isn't cleared as soon as we're done with our session. It can take up to a week to clear everything.
Wow. That's got to be some pretty deep work to take up to a week for it to all just kind of settle and start moving things and shifting things around so that we can really feel the results of the work that we did during our time together, the work that your clients do during their time with you.
Yeah,
I have to admit that when I worked with you the first time, I was already somewhat familiar with emotion code and body code. It's part of the root cause therapy level 2 class. I've read the book, and I have to be honest. We already know that not every modality is for every client. Not every modality is for every practitioner. And I've got some of this information in my head. I've never been able to connect all the dots. So I never chose to go further down that route other than to gain some knowledge. And wow, congratulations to you on your accomplishment in achieving your certifications in both emotion code and body code. And I love that through having done the work, you're able to step out with new comfort and new confidence, I'm sure, having done your own work so that you can help other people process and work through and let go of the stuff that they've been carrying for so long. And as to your point, some of it's ancestral. It's not even yours or your clients. So we're all walking around doing things based on a subconscious understanding.
Yeah.
That really we came by honestly, right? I mean, it passes through DNA, but we didn't need to be using that as our filter. It's just so amazing that you can get these kinds of results. Although, I mean, I know I just held up the book. I've read the whole thing cover to cover. It's available for everyone. There are techniques. The entire outline of some of this of emotion code is in the book, but there's so much more to learn so that you can really most effectively help folks by going through the program itself. There are some, I don't want to say minutia, that's not the word, but some really fine details and some clearer understandings that I'm sure that you get throughout the certification process. What's that process like?
The emotion code certification process was pretty straightforward. It's a student portal that you log into. There are a series of videos that you watch. Obviously, you have to go read the book. So there's certain chapters that they associate with the videos. And then after each section, you practice on a certain amount of people that particular area. And then you do it, you go and learn more and then you practice more. And that's how that was kind of brought forth. And you log everything into a student portal. It has to be reviewed. And you have to meet all of the criteria that they put forward, which not only are you working with humans, but you get to work with the animals too.
Yay!
So our feline friends and our dogs are, they're super sensitive too, and they can pick up their own stuff. They can have their own birth trauma, right? In the womb trauma. And then they're so sensitive, they pick up on our stuff too sometimes.
Yeah.
So that particular process is pretty straightforward, and they give you 6 months to go through the whole thing.
Wow.
And then you get a nice, pretty certification once they approve your portal and everything that you've put in there, all of your notes. And then the body code certification, I'll be honest, it was a lot more rigorous. So it was, you actually watched all of the videos first, and then you started doing the practice. And so we had to practice with 30 people, and each person had to have 4 sessions. And there was a very, methodical process that we had to go through. So it took a little bit longer.
I can't even imagine 120 sessions just to get your certification.
Yeah.
And then do they rely on your client feedback as well to back up your notes?
No, they don't. They do what's in the portal. And then you have to take a 150 question test.
Wow.
At the end. Yeah.
Nice. So that is quite the journey. And of course, as we go through the process of learning our modalities and we experience the modality and we practice the modality, we get our own learnings and our own healings through doing the work for other people as well.
Yes.
When we come back after this break, Candice has very graciously offered to provide some mini clearings for our viewers and our listeners. Todd has popped up onto the screen for us in our comments the link to join the show, come backstage and choose to work with us. Camera on, camera off, doesn't matter. If you would like to have an opportunity to work briefly with Candice today, pop us a note in the comments there. We'd love to have you come and actually be that much more a part of our show. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. I will be back shortly, as will Candice. I am Deidre, your host for Self-Care. What's Paranormal Got to Do with It? Right here on WLTK-DB.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Hey, welcome back. We're here. We're waiting on you guys to jump in and take advantage of this amazing opportunity that Candice has provided for us and for you. Holy cow. I can't believe it when you popped in and said, hey, I could do some mini clearings on the show. I thought, that's a fabulous idea. It might feel a little bit scary to think about having healing work done actually live during the show. But let's do this. It's a safe place. I think we've already all learned, especially, through working with Allison and Danielle, and hopefully through a couple of shows with me. It's a safe place. There's all kinds of respect and understanding here. Candice, while we're waiting to see who's going to join us today, I grabbed actually my copy of the book the other night, and I was looking at some of the passages that I had marked when I was reading the book. And I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the main meridian, because I think it's important that we consider, hey, there's Lynn, there's Tim. Awesome. I think it's important that we consider those energy meridians as they do in acupuncture. When your acupuncturist is working with you, can you help us understand how those meridians can come into play a little bit in these sessions?
Sure. Yeah, there's the main meridians, and then we have those extraordinary meridians. They hold a lot of energy. Their energy flow through our whole bodies. And so when there's a blockage, right, emotional backup, it impacts a significant number of things in our body. They're all connected. The meridians are all connected to our organs. They're connected to our, vessels and veins. And so making sure that all of our meridians are aligned and happy is hugely important to our overall, body functions and health.
It's amazing how it's so connected. And it's almost stupefying how long it's taking for Western science to connect all of those dots. Yeah. It's crazy, but they're getting there. And I'm thankful for that. They're beginning to understand some of those connections. We do have 2 people waiting backstage to join us live to do some work with you. So I'd like to bring, I think our first guest who volunteered for us was our friend Lynn, who has been watching us for the last couple of weeks. Good morning, Lynn. How are you?
Hi. Nice to listen to you, Candice, and to hear all about this.
Thank you
I have just
much.
a little peripheral knowledge about this technique.
Awesome. Well, I am happy to share this with you today. Do you have something specific that you're looking at? I have a neck ache, I have a foot ache, or are you just looking for your higher self to just see what comes up?
No, I so appreciate this because for the last couple of years, I've been dealing with a neuroma, which is a pinched nerve between my big toe, the next toe, and it's created bone spurs in my left foot. And I've just, I've tried all kinds of things. I'm an EFT practitioner, so I've done some tapping. I've done, chiropractic, and I get some relief. But this kind of thing fascinates me because it is bound to be tied to something, I understand, foot, stepping into something or moving forward, all of those kinds of things, but I can't seem to unlock it. So why not? Let's look at my left foot.
All right. Well, let's give it a shot. I am going to just connect into your energy. I'm just going to say, just take a moment of silence and connect our energies together. Okay, so I am connected into Lynn. So when I use the pendulum, when it moves to my right, how it's spinning now, is a yes answer. And show me my no. When it moves to my left, it means no. Not that you need to pay attention to that because I know what's happening, but just so that you know what the spins look like. So connecting in with Lynn, her left foot pain. Is there an underlying imbalance that we can clear for Lynn? There sure is. Is it on the right side of the chart? Is it energy? Is it on the right? Is it number 1? Number 2. So it's emotional. Is it on the right? It's a compound, so more than one emotion. Is it on the right? Common. So it's what we call a common emotional compound, which just means these are your emotions that you took in. But as we go through life, right, sometimes we have more than one feel that comes in at the same time. And so because they come in at the same time, we identify them together and then we'll release them together. So I'm going to find out how many emotions there are, and then we'll see what those emotions are, and then we'll clear them. All right, so compound for Lynn, how many emotions? We know there's 2, there are 3, 4. So there's 3 emotions. So I'm going to use the emotion code chart here to see what those are. Is it in column A? Is it in odd row? Row 2, row 4, row 6? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So the first emotion is overwhelm. Second emotion is in column A, odd row, row 2. Is it 1, 2? Second emotion is helplessness. And third emotion is in column A, odd row, row 1. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Third emotion is lost. And let's see, we need to know more about this compound. We need to know the age that this came in. Did this compound come in before the age of 10? It did. Did it come in before the age of 5? Did it come in at age 5, 6, 7, 8? It came in around age 8. Do we need to know anything else? We don't. So here's the fun part. Now we get to clear the energy, and that's done through the governing meridian, right? And that starts at the tip of our lip and runs down to the base of our spine. So we literally just take our hand kind of at our forehead and run it down the back of our neck. And we're going to do that 3 times. And we're going to say release common emotional compound. And we'll just do that 3 times as we release. So release common emotional compound.
Common emotional compound.
Release common emotional compound.
Release common emotional compound.
Release common emotional compound.
Release common emotional compound.
Good. Did that fully release for Lynn? It sure did. Are there other underlying imbalances that we could clear? So there's a little bit more in there than just that, but that was a good start. Well, I'd love to see how that just little mini clearing helps. And see.
I appreciate it. You know, I know you don't need to be connected with an event or a time in life, but I am aware of being very sick between the ages of 7 and 8.
Okay.
And, you know, having to actually leave my home and stay with a grandmother because my parents worked. And I wonder, you know, if it was related to that time in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That pendulum is agreeing. Wow.
Yeah. So there's probably some more stuff to unpack there.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate
it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn, for popping in and choosing to work with Candice today. I love it. Candice's links, indiglowsoul.com, are posted in the comments for us already. Lynn, is there anything that you might want to add or any thoughts that you might want to share before I let you go back to your normal day?
I just love that there are so many doors we can walk through and that you're Deidre, that you're the one kind of opening all of these doors for us to look at and take a peek at, because I know that there'll be someone that Candice will help, and it'll be life changing, and it might be me,
You never know.
So very cool. Thanks for doing this.
I'm going to share with you all now. I didn't want to do it before you ladies had a chance to work together. I've known Lynn for quite some time. She was my grief counselor when my mother passed away. She is also a practitioner of several other things, and she is going to be a guest on our show later this month.
Yay!
So excited. So we'll be bringing
I'm
Lynn back.
excited
You'll be
too.
seeing Lynn's face again. And again, Lynn, if you and Candice want to connect on any other level, indigosoul.com. And of course, I can help with that as well. Candice is also already listed on the resources page of my website, and you can find her that way also.
That's wonderful. Thank
you.
Lynn, thank you again. I can't wait to see you soon. I've got Tim waiting for us backstage, so I'm going to let you go, Lynn, but thank you again for joining us today. Candice, it's amazing and fascinating to watch you work. It really is. Let's bring Tim in and see what Tim's got up his sleeve for us today. Good morning,
Hey there,
Tim.
ladies. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was getting ready to go out and plant a tree or two, and remembered that Deidre's on, so I sat back down.
Well, thank you so much for coming to join us. I know that you are pretty involved with WLTK-DB as a platform in general. And it was such a pleasure and such an honor for me to know that you were choosing to tune in and catch this show as well. Thank you for that.
Oh, I wouldn't miss it. I am, my wife used to call me the healthiest invalid she knows.
I'm sorry, but that makes a difficult situation rather humorous. Thank you for bringing humor.
22 years ago this week, I fell.
Uh-oh.
And blew out 3 levels of discs. So I'm fused from L3-4 down. I've had 3 surgeries. I deal with neuropathy. Like Lynn, I'm privileged to have neuroma in both feet, as well as plantar fasciitis. My podiatrist finally got tired of seeing me, and we did alcohol injections into the nerves to kill the nerves.
Wow.
But the pain remains, and the inflammation is there to the point that it pulls bones in my feet out of place.
Yeah.
So walking can be a real challenge. So when I limp with my feet, my back gets worse.
Right.
When I feel good with my back, I walk too much. But the rest of me is pretty healthy.
What a vicious cycle, Tim. I'm so sorry that you're coping.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're coping. I'm sorry you're having to cope.
I'm grateful I'm coping. I spent 3 years in a wheelchair. So the fact that I can get up and move around is fantastic. But anything that Candice I would grab any lifeline I can find.
Okay.
I just bought the motion code book and the healing code book.
Okay.
By the same author.
Yeah.
And I see that those are both available on Audible, so I can listen to those while I'm on the tractor.
Nice.
Oh.
I'm gonna bow out. We've got about 6 to 10 more minutes left in the show this morning, so I'm gonna get out of the way.
I love being a guinea pig. If this can help somebody else too, I like that. That's more the point for me than what I find for myself, really.
That's nice. Good. All right, Tim, let's connect our energies together and see what we can do for you today. And I have to share that my husband's favorite number, although it wasn't a good situation for you, but is 22. And my numbers are 1144, which it is right now. So
got it.
It's divinely guided. Okay. All right. I am connected into Tim's energy. I sure am. So I feel like the feet is again kind of where, and the pendulum is agreeing, where we're going to work. And so is there an underlying imbalance that we can clear for Tim related to his feet? Is it on the right? Is it energy? Is it on the right? Is it number 1? Number 2? Number 3? So we have what we call a reverberation. Is it on the right? Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Okay, so it's an emotional reverberation is what we've identified. And that's really an unprocessed, right, emotional energy. But it's instead of it really sitting kind of in our bodies, it's in our energy field.
Okay.
So, and it's just kind of pinging, right, pinging out there. So I'm going to go through the same body emotion code chart to see what that emotion is, and then we'll see where we go. All right, emotional reverberation. Is it in column A, odd row 2, row 4? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So that emotion is taken for granted, the emotion. So let's see. Do we need to identify more? We do. Do we need to know the age this came in? We do. Did this come in before the age of 10? Before the age of 20? Okay. Did this come in before the age of 15? Did it come in at 15, 16, 17? So around age 17 is taken for granted energy. Do we need to know anything else? We don't. Is there an associated imbalance? So sometimes what happens is we get a high level, right, imbalance, and then there are smaller or other imbalances that it creates. And so there is one more. So I'm going to look at that real quick. Is there an associated imbalance? Is it on the right? Is it a pathogen? It's a misalignment in the skeleton. Appendicular, lower limb. Is it on the right? It's in the foot. Is it on the right? Tarsal. It's the proximal phalange. Let's see. What do we need to know about this? It's on the left side. Associated. Are there trapped emotions in there? Yeah. Is there 1, 2 common trapped emotion? Is it in column A, odd row 2? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Lack of control. So that's what's being stored in the flange. So the proximal flange. So let's release that. We're going to do 3 swipes, and we're going to say realign this bone as we do it over the governing meridian.
Right.
Realign this bone.
Realign this bone.
Realign this
Realign this bone.
Realign this
Realign this bone.
And as we realigned that bone, we also cleared out the emotion that was trapped in there. So now we're just going to go back to that emotional reverberation, and we're going to release that. And so we're going to do 3 swipes, and we're going to say release the emotional reverberation.
Okay.
Release the
emotional reverberation.
Release the emotional reverberation. Release the emotional reverberation. Perfect. And did all of that clear for Tim? It sure did. And there are some other things that, could be cleared in there, but for our purposes today, those couple of things, having that energy reduced, hopefully will help in some small way.
I think it will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's amazing. Hey, Tim, thanks for jumping in and volunteering to do this work live with us today. You're so fun. I enjoy having you on the show as well. Your comments and everything, you're always fantastic to work with.
Anytime you need a guinea pig, I'm there.
Sounds great. Keep your eyes open. You never know what's coming next.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Wow. Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
I think one of the things I remember from my work with you, and then was reminded of in watching you work with both Lynn and Tim today, is that going back and revisiting emotional things that are seated within us doesn't have to be a difficult experience.
Yeah.
Yet I remember walking away knowing from our session, knowing that some of that had been cleared. And then again, as we said before, seeing how it progressed in its continued clearing over a couple of days after we had done work together. So I can't wait to hear from Tim and or Lynn next week. And hopefully they'll maybe shoot you an email too and let you know what the results were of the time that you spent working with them today.
Yeah.
There are so many things that we all go through in our lifetimes. Some of them we notice, some of them we don't, that can affect how we view life, how we cope with life, how we process everything moving forward. It doesn't matter really, I don't think, how aware we are. Those things can still hide, you know?
Sure can.
Like from my experience in working with you, I'm 55 years old, and some of the things that we cleared happened, gosh, before I was 5, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It was quite the collection.
Yeah. And that's what I find a lot. That's why I start at age 10, right? When I ask those questions, those are our real formative years.
Yeah.
That's when we are, growing by leaps and bounds. We're learning from our environment. We're taking on in everything that we see. And those are our real years that we're, formable. And so
like little sponges.
Exactly. And those are the years that some of those baseline, imbalances come in. And then think about it, right? Age 7 to, I'm 48. Yeah, there's a lot of years for that energy to just kind of sit there, right?
No wonder we've got, phantom aches and pains that we don't know where they came from, or our physicians aren't able to always really pinpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. And do we have time for me to share another story of someone I work with? Okay. So I worked with a little boy who was around 5 when we worked together. Obviously, I worked with his mom. But he had been bitten by the family dog at 10 months old in his carrier. His dad was there, right, and took care of the situation. He was not maimed in any way, which was good. But he was young, right? He was 10 months old. He's not going to remember that. But when he was about 4 going on 5, he started regressing around animals, so much so that he would just shake uncontrollably when he got near a dog. And they didn't own a dog anymore, but he wouldn't move from room to room in his house without asking if there was a dog, knowing that they didn't even own one anymore. And so we worked together, his mom and I, his little brother, and he played in the other room. And within 3 sessions, we cleared a lot of that trauma, right? Post-traumatic. He had taken on some stuff from his dad because his dad was really scared and angry.
Sure.
He had his own emotions around it. And I just got a picture from his mom, 2 weeks ago, where he was holding the leash of a dog. Where
That's awesome.
Not even a year ago, he was uncontrollably shaking around a dog.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, the power that these both modalities have to help is just amazing to me.
Without having had the opportunity to do that work and to release this emotional trauma in some way, shape, or form, he may never go near another dog again and wouldn't know the joy of having a little fur baby or an association with someone else's fur baby. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it was impacting the whole family, right? I mean, it wasn't just him.
Yeah. So cool. And again, when we heal our own stuff, we heal those around us as well in some way, shape, or form. Our ancestors, children we may have in the future, or children we already have, we can stop passing that stuff along.
Yes.
We can break the epigenetic pattern. That's
Absolutely.
so cool. Candice, thank you so much for coming to join us today on the show. I really appreciate having you here, sharing your information with us, and offering to do the work to do the work for Lynn and Tim, who stepped forward and chose to accept doing some work with you today. It's just amazing. I love that we have this opportunity to present these options.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share. Not a lot of people know what emotion code and body code are. So to get it out on a larger platform is really powerful.
Well, I am so glad that you chose to come in and share that with us. You have such wonderful, warm, positive, caring energy. It's absolutely always a joy to speak with you. Tim just popped in to thank you.
Thank you
for the work. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from one or the other, if not both of them, as the energy settles and things shift for them in the coming days.
Wonderful.
Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. So thanks for joining us again today on one more episode of Self-Care, What's Paranormal Got to Do with It, right here on WLTK-DB. Don't forget to stick around and pop back into the station later on today for the Psychic Hour with Kelly Brickle at 3 o'clock. Over the Target with Missy and Nicole at 8 p.m. And then tomorrow morning, Chat with Charlie hits the air at 9 a.m. There's some fabulous programming here, and there's a little bit of everything or a little bit of something for everyone. So stay tuned, watch the events page, and join us as we move forward throughout the rest of the week and beyond. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget to take care of you. I'm Deidre Sanford, and this has been Self-Care, What's Paranormal Got to Do with It on WLTK-DB.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.